Hello. How is everyone doing today? I want you to come on in, get comfy, cozy, grab your favorite beverage. I got my water. Anyway, welcome back to my exploration video series. Today we're talking about the clairs, which is actually the 5 psychic senses. Before I jump into that, I'm just going to quickly remind you that with these video series, we explore different topics related to psychic and mediumship and healing. So that's why we're talking about the 5 psychic senses today. And for those that don't know me, my name is Lauren Applewood, and I'm an intuitive healing practitioner. So that means that I'm a psychic medium and I do intuitive readings, and I'm also a certified Reiki practitioner and do Reiki healings as well. And right now I'm holding all my sessions online via Zoom or another video messaging service. So it's perfect for the pandemic. It's pandemic-friendly services here. All right, so let's get started. So everyone has, a pen on my hand, a red pen. Everyone has intuition. But are you really listening to the signs and signals that are all around you? You know, we're talking about our 5 psychic senses, what they are, how to identify them, and how to develop your strongest sense. So just a quick little story about myself and my clairs. I have always had a really strong gut instinct and gut feeling, or I guess you would call it that knowing or intuition, since I was a young child. So that let me know, whether a person was good or bad, or if a place was good or bad. I've just always been able to actually feel the energy from other people and other places, even things. Like I'm thinking of antiques, at the Goodwill or something. Also residual energies left over from the past. After I decided to use my psychic abilities to help others and as a way of income too, of course, I came out of the psychic closet, basically. And when I did this, I just wanted to learn and grow and develop as much as I could in these abilities, and have been taking classes from a internationally renowned psychic medium as well. So I've been learning a lot, and I learned what my strongest psychic senses or clairs were or are. And it really helps me to continue to work with spirit, knowing this kind of stuff. So, spirit communicates to us through all of our 5 senses. And so for me personally, I don't see spirit standing physically in front of me, but I can see them in my mind's eye. Spirit is always broadcasting around us all the time, every day, 24/7. It's up to us to know how to tune in and how to interpret that information that's constantly coming at us. And so these clairs or psychic senses actually correspond to the 5 physical senses. So for instance, you may feel that you have maybe 1 or 2 dominant physical senses, like your hearing is really good, or you may be a visual person and like to see things drawn out in front of you. So too, would this be the same for your psychic senses? So for your psychic senses, you're going to have 1 or 2 that are most dominant, although you can use all of them. So, as we go along, now we're going to talk about the 5 psychic senses, what they are. The first one that I'm going to talk about is one that I happen to be most dominant in. So I thought I'd start out with that. And it's called clairvoyance. Clairvoyance literally means clear vision. So you'll get like visions, flashes, images in your mind's eye. Hi, Michelle. Thanks for joining. You'll see this in your mind's eye, or in other words, your third eye, images. And like I said earlier, some of us are highly visual. So are you highly visual? Do you like to see things in front of you, written out or drawn out? So someone with clairvoyance in their dominance would be naturally drawn to careers in artistry, photography, building, architecture, decorating, and design even. Does that sound like you? So if it does, maybe your clairvoyance is one of your strongest psychic senses. Next, we have clairaudience, which literally means clear hearing. So for this, you might hear words, sounds, music in your mind's eye, you're in your head, mind's voice. You would naturally be drawn to careers in such as being a musician, singer, writer, public speaker. I don't know, does that sound like you maybe? You might have clairaudience as your dominant psychic sense. The third psychic sense is called clairsentient, which literally means clear feeling. This is where you feel another person's emotions or energy, or a spirit's emotion. Also physical pain. You can feel the pain that the spirit went through. So this is represented as a strong gut feeling, either positive or negative. We might get the chills. We might be tuning in to the physical and emotional energy of that person or spirit. So people that are clairsentient dominant are drawn to and are very good nurturers, caregivers, therapists, counselors, and teachers. They can put themselves in the shoes of those other people that they're working with and actually feel what they're feeling. Does that sound like you? If it does, you might be clairsentient. Next one we have is called clairalient, which is a fancy way of saying clear smelling. An example of this actually, so it's where you can smell something that doesn't have a physical source. So there's like no reason you should be smelling it. And I have an example. Literally this last week, I woke up at like 3 a.m. and this super strong smell of cologne just permeating my bedroom. And I was trying to figure it out. Is this one of my, but it wasn't a perfume or a female smell. It was this very strong cologne, although I had never smelled it anymore. But I knew, based on the fact that it just hit me in the face, that spirit had just visited me. Now, I couldn't tell who it was because actually I had never smelled that smell before. And personally, I wasn't going to try to communicate with that spirit at that time in the morning because this psychic medium needs her rest. So people that have this as one of their main psychic senses are drawn to careers such as being a florist, wine tasting, sommelier, even a perfume tester, because their sense of smell is so strong. I don't know, does that sound like you? Maybe you have clairalience as one of your strongest senses. The fourth sense is called clairgustance, which is another fancy way of saying clear tasting. Okay, so this is interesting. It's when you are able to taste something that's not actually there. Spirit actually often uses this this psychic sense to communicate with you, to remind you of a memory. So for instance, if you smell smoke, you might be like, oh yeah, that's my uncle, you know, he was a big smoker. My uncle was here. Or you could smell like baking, blueberry pie. If you smell that, then you know, like, spirit's kind of sharing with you a memory of, and wants to remind you of that beautiful time that you had together. But it's, you know, it's very subtle. It can be subtle, it can be very strong. It just depends. And people that have this tasting ability are drawn to careers as like a chef, bakers, also food critics, just anyone who gets to taste things all the time. Which, I would love a job like that, honestly. Do they have a cookie tasting practitioner or something out there? I don't know. I'd like to do that one. So, I don't know, does it sound like you? Maybe you do have Clairgustance, clear tasting as your main ability. And the very last, the fifth psychic sense we have is called Claircognizance. Hi Karen, hey, how are you? Claircognizance. So Claircognizance literally means clear knowing. It's basically when you have knowledge of people and events that you should not know about, or typically know. You wouldn't typically know or should know about that person, but you do. And it's like, there's no practical reason why we suddenly know something. An example of this would be like having a premonition or a forewarning that something is going to happen. Another example is knowing something about a stranger just based on their photograph. So if you were to look at the photograph of someone you don't know and you start to know things about them, you know that they owned a horse when they were little, or you know that they have some type of an illness, then you may have this as your strongest sense. If you do, you're drawn to careers such as like philosophers, scientists, doctors, professors, even sales and business leaders, because these people just kind of know the facts with a sense of certainty. So does that sound like you? You might have clear knowing or claircognizance as one of your main psychic senses. Now I would just like to quickly go over how to practice finding your dominant psychic sense. So for the first exercise, I would recommend that you sit quietly in a room. It could be any room in your house. It could be out at a coffee shop, but sit quietly and take in your surroundings. Observe what's in the environment. Take about 30 seconds or a minute to do that. And then close your eyes and think about what registered first and how you're remembering what you saw. Was it the sight of something that caught your eye? Was it something you heard that stood out, or a gut reaction maybe? Just sit and think about how you are receiving and remembering this information about your environment. Now, if you're really interested in spirit and developing your communication with spirit, this is another exercise you could do. So again, I would be sitting quietly or, comfortably, definitely on the couch or in a comfortable chair, even in bed. You want to sit quietly, kind of quiet the mind, and you simply ask your spirit guides to communicate with you in a way that you will understand. And you want to ask them that specifically. So it's like, I now want to communicate with my main spirit guide in a way that I will understand. So make sure there's no distractions. After you ask that of your spirit guides, close your eyes and start asking questions. Start asking questions to your spirit guides. and see what information pops in and how does it pop in. Did the answer come as a vision? Did it come as a word or phrase? Maybe a smell or a knowing? How about a knowing? Did you receive a knowing? So keep practicing that and you will come to understand how you receive your psychic information. Once I realized that I didn't actually have to see spirit standing in front of me physically to communicate with them, I began to embrace my dominant psychic senses. You know, I personally, hi Noelle, thanks for joining, how are you? You know, I first had to practice over and over again, which would be sitting quietly again and asking to communicate with my spirit guides and spirit around me. You know, I had to be patient, not force anything. And as I kept practicing this, I began to see images, a lot of images, and hear words, sometimes see words and phrases, sometimes full sentences. And these words, phrases were not in my voice or in my own train of thought. It was like they come in almost like at an octave higher, or it sounds like my voice, but it's not. And it just started appearing in my mind's eye. So now when I'm communicating with spirit, I use almost all of my psychic senses. Spirit will make me feel their personality and also feel how they passed. I will see exactly how they looked, down to their smile, preferred type of shoe and clothing preference. And I'll also see how they walked. So that's clairvoyance, seeing. I'm seeing all of this in my mind's eye. Spirit will also show me images of significant memories or images. They also give me symbols as well. So clairvoyance is my dominant sense because I just get tons and tons and tons of images. And then I have to interpret that for my sitter or my client. And it can be challenging sometimes, but again, it takes practice just like everything else. Also, I will hear their name, significant phrases, messages. That's clairaudient. And I will sometimes even smell smoke or cologne or baking. But for me, my personal top 3 psychic senses is clairsentient, which is clear feeling, clairvoyance, which is clear seeing, and clairaudient, which is clear hearing. So just for a little bit about me, I'm always singing. I sing everything and make a tune out of it. And I'm always dancing and hearing music and just, so clairaudience is very strong for me. And what I have to say, what is happening now, and it's fascinating. I love listening to songs and like learning and memorizing all the lyrics. And there are some classic songs that I just have never been able to figure out what exactly they're saying. It's just like kind of muffled, and I just like kind of ramble over it. So then there are songs like that where it's just kind of unclear what they're saying. As I practice with my psychic senses, with spirit, practice my hearing, practice raising my vibration and all of this, now I'm beginning to get those words in the song that previously I had no clue what they were saying. And I would, I wouldn't know this for years and years and years until just this last year. And I'm hearing all these songs and all of a sudden I know what word that is. That's because my clairaudience, my clear hearing is increasing and getting better as I keep practicing my abilities. So what do you think is your dominant clair? I'd love you to throw it up in the chat and let me know what you guys think and how you're going to practice developing your psychic senses. It's fun and exciting, and I am here to help along your journey as well. So this is a reminder that you can find out more about me at laurenapplewood.com, my services, what I have to offer, and how my healing and readings are unique. I look forward to hearing from you guys soon. Throw it up in the chat what your clairs are, and we'll talk later. I hope you guys have a great weekend.